Chosen one, the bank approved this for you. Congratulations. When you hear the words that something has been approved for you, it is natural for your mind to immediately think of relief, progress, and a sense of finally being seen. But approval, in its deepest sense, is not only about an external institution saying yes. It is also about the moment when effort, preparation, and timing finally meet, in a way that allows movement forward. This moment represents a shift from waiting to building, from uncertainty to action, from holding on to hope, to stepping into responsibility. Congratulations is not only for what may be opening externally, but for the growth that made you capable of handling what opens next. Stay with this message until the very end, because understanding becomes stronger as each layer unfolds. And write your warmest wishes in the comments and include the number 144 as a symbol of focused intention and positive alignment. This is the only place where wishes are mentioned, because from here forward, the focus moves fully into readiness, responsibility, and how to manage progress when doors begin to open. Now, chosen one, press the hype button, like this video, subscribe if you haven't subscribed to the channel, and let's start. Approval often arrives after long periods of preparation that did not feel dramatic or celebrated. Quiet consistency, repeated effort, and learning from setbacks rarely look impressive from the outside, but they build internal stability. When approval finally comes, it is not only permission to move forward, it is confirmation that you are more capable than you once were. What once felt overwhelming now feels manageable, because your skills, discipline, and emotional control have grown. One of the first things that tends to shift after approval is your mindset around opportunity. You begin to think less about whether you deserve progress and more about how to use it wisely. This shift is powerful because it turns attention toward strategy rather than doubt. Instead of questioning your worth, you begin planning your next steps with clarity and purpose. You may also notice that your relationship with responsibility changes. Approval often comes with expectations, obligations, and the need for follow-through. Instead of avoiding responsibility, you approach it with structure. You organize your time, your resources, and your priorities more carefully. This organization reduces stress and supports long-term stability. Another important change is how you manage risk. When new opportunities appear, it can be tempting to move quickly or emotionally. But maturity brings patience. You evaluate options, consider consequences, and make choices that protect your future, rather than only serving immediate excitement. This thoughtful approach helps prevent setbacks that come from rushing. You may also experience a stronger sense of ownership over your direction. Approval does not mean that everything will be handled for you. It means that you now have the chance to shape outcomes through consistent action. This sense of agency increases motivation because you see how your choices directly influence progress. As momentum begins to build, you may notice that your tolerance for distraction decreases. You become more protective of your focus because you recognize that attention is a valuable resource. You limit activities and influences that pull you away from what you are building. This selectivity strengthens productivity and reduces burnout. Another shift is how you handle pressure. Instead of interpreting pressure as a threat, you begin to see it as a sign of growth. With growth comes challenge, learning, and responsibility. When you accept this, pressure becomes something you manage rather than something that controls you. You may also notice improvements in your financial or practical thinking. You plan more carefully. You think about sustainability rather than short-term relief. You consider how decisions today will affect stability tomorrow. This long-term mindset protects you from repeating cycles that once felt hard to escape. As approval opens new possibilities, emotional maturity becomes especially important. You regulate excitement, frustration, and impatience more effectively. You stay grounded even when things feel promising. This emotional steadiness helps you navigate both success and obstacles without losing balance. You may also become more aware of the importance of systems. Success is not maintained by single moments, but by routines, habits, and structures that support consistency. You create processes for managing tasks, finances, learning, and rest. These systems make progress sustainable instead of exhausting. Another important development is how you relate to mistakes. When opportunities grow, mistakes become part of learning at a higher level. Instead of viewing errors as failures, you treat them as feedback. You adjust, improve, and continue. This learning mindset protects confidence and keeps growth active. You may also notice that your confidence becomes quieter but stronger. You do not need constant reassurance. You trust your ability to handle challenges because you have evidence from past experience. This self-trust supports independence and decision-making. As your sense of stability increases, you may also become more generous with patience toward yourself and others. You understand that growth is not instant and that progress unfolds through stages. This patience reduces unnecessary conflict and supports collaboration. You may also find that your priorities become clearer. You invest energy in what produces long-term benefit rather than temporary comfort. This clarity helps you say no to distractions without guilt. Another shift is how you handle comparisons. You become less affected by other people's timelines or achievements. You focus on your own path and what makes sense for your goals. This independence protects confidence and reduces pressure. You may also experience increased clarity about what kind of future you want to build, not just what you want to receive. This vision guides decisions about work, finances, learning, and relationships. Vision turns opportunity into direction. As approval opens doors, boundaries become more important. You protect your time and energy so that progress does not come at the cost of health or relationships. You learn that saying no is sometimes necessary to protect what truly matters. You may also notice that your discipline becomes more consistent. You follow through on commitments even when motivation fluctuates. This reliability compounds into results over time. Another important development is how you manage expectations. You understand that approval does not mean everything becomes easy. It means that you are now in a position to work at a higher level of responsibility. This realism protects you from disappointment when challenges still appear. You may also become more aware of the importance of learning. You seek knowledge, skills, and feedback that strengthen your ability to manage growth. This curiosity keeps improvement continuous. As progress begins, you may also notice that your emotional resilience improves. You recover more quickly from setbacks. You do not dwell as long on frustration. This resilience protects momentum. You may also experience increased confidence in communicating your needs, goals, and boundaries. Clear communication improves outcomes and reduces misunderstanding. Another shift is how you view effort. Effort becomes an investment rather than a burden. You see how work today builds stability tomorrow. This perspective strengthens commitment. You may also notice that your sense of gratitude becomes more grounded. You appreciate steady improvement rather than waiting for dramatic moments. This appreciation stabilizes motivation. As opportunities expand, you may also become more selective about commitments. You choose quality over quantity. This selectivity protects focus and prevents overload. You may also find that your identity shifts towards seeing yourself as capable, reliable, and resilient. This identity influences behavior, reinforcing positive habits. Another important development is how you manage emotional expectations around success. You accept that success brings new responsibilities rather than permanent comfort. This acceptance protects emotional balance. You may also notice that your planning becomes more realistic. You account for obstacles and delays rather than assuming smooth progress. This preparation reduces stress when challenges appear. As your capacity grows, you may also experience increased calm during decision-making. You trust your ability to evaluate and choose wisely. This calm supports confidence. You may also find that your sense of control becomes more balanced. You focus on what you can influence and release what you cannot. This realism reduces anxiety. Another shift is how you approach long-term commitments. You are less intimidated by them because you trust your systems and discipline. This confidence allows you to build projects that require sustained effort. You may also notice that your tolerance for self-sabotaging habits decreases. You recognize patterns that undermine growth and actively replace them with healthier routines. As approval moves from possibility to responsibility, you may also experience increased pride in your consistency rather than in dramatic wins. This pride strengthens self-respect. You may also become more comfortable with gradual progress. You understand that meaningful growth often looks steady rather than spectacular. This understanding protects patience. Another important development is how you handle feedback from results. When something does not work, you analyze and adjust instead of quitting. This adaptability supports long-term success. You may also notice that your sense of purpose becomes more practical. Purpose shows up in daily choices, not just in big dreams. This practicality supports follow-through. As this first part settles, understand this. Approval is not only an external decision. It is a reflection of internal readiness that has been building quietly over time. The congratulations you deserve are not only for what may be opening now, but for the discipline, learning, and emotional strength that prepared you to step into what opens. What comes next will not simply be received. It will be managed, built, protected, and grown through consistent action. And that is why this moment matters, not as an ending, but as the beginning of a new level of responsibility, clarity, and forward movement. As this new phase continues to unfold, you may begin to notice that your sense of personal accountability becomes stronger. You are more aware that progress now depends less on waiting and more on how you manage what is already in your hands. This does not feel heavy or intimidating. Instead, it feels empowering, because you recognize that your actions now have clearer impact on your outcomes. You may also notice that your planning becomes more deliberate. You think ahead instead of reacting at the last minute. You anticipate needs, deadlines, and responsibilities with greater accuracy. This foresight reduces stress and increases confidence, because fewer situations catch you unprepared. Another shift is how you relate to effort. You no longer question whether effort is worth it. You see direct connections between consistency and results. This understanding makes discipline feel logical rather than forced, which supports steady follow-through. You may also experience increased confidence in financial or practical decision-making. You trust yourself to evaluate options, compare outcomes, and choose wisely. This confidence reduces anxiety around choices that once felt overwhelming. As responsibility increases, you may notice that your emotional reactions become more measured. Instead of panicking when something does not go as planned, you adjust strategies. This adaptability keeps momentum moving forward even when circumstances change. You may also find that your standards for how you use resources become more intentional. Time, money, and energy are treated with greater respect. You invest them where they support growth, rather than where they simply provide distraction. Another important development is how you handle long-term commitments. You approach them with structure and realism, rather than fear. You break large goals into manageable stages, which makes progress feel achievable. You may also notice that your tolerance for excuses decreases. You recognize when you are avoiding tasks and gently redirect yourself back to action. This honesty with yourself strengthens self-trust. As your confidence in your own discipline grows, you may also experience less dependence on motivation. You act because you have decided to, not because you feel inspired. This reliability supports consistent progress. You may also find that your communication becomes more direct and practical. You discuss expectations, timelines, and responsibilities more clearly. This clarity reduces misunderstandings and improves collaboration. Another shift is how you respond to opportunities. You evaluate them carefully instead of accepting everything that appears promising. This discernment protects you from overcommitting and supports sustainable growth. You may also notice that your relationship with patience improves. You are willing to invest time in building something properly, rather than rushing toward quick results. This patience protects quality and stability. As you continue to manage progress, you may also become more aware of how stress affects your performance. You intervene earlier when pressure rises by adjusting workload, seeking support, or refining routines. This self-regulation protects health. You may also find that your confidence becomes more internally anchored. Praise and criticism affect you less intensely. You remain grounded in your own assessment of effort and improvement. Another important development is how you handle financial planning. You think beyond immediate needs and consider future obligations and opportunities. This planning supports long-term security. You may also notice that your decision-making becomes more strategic. You consider not only what feels right now, but what supports future stability. This long-term perspective improves outcomes. As responsibility increases, you may also experience greater satisfaction from completing meaningful tasks. You take pride in reliability and consistency rather than only in visible success. You may also find that your sense of control becomes more balanced. You accept that some factors are outside your influence while staying fully engaged with what you can manage. This realism reduces anxiety. Another shift is how you approach learning. You seek information that improves performance rather than information that only reassures you. This practical learning supports competence. You may also notice that your emotional resilience continues to strengthen. You recover more quickly from setbacks and remain focused on solutions. This resilience protects momentum. As you continue to build, you may also become more comfortable with gradual improvement. You measure progress over months rather than days. This patience supports persistence. You may also find that your tolerance for chaos decreases. You prefer organized systems that reduce mental load and improve efficiency. This structure supports clarity. Another important development is how you handle uncertainty about outcomes. You remain committed to effort, even when results are not immediately visible. This commitment protects confidence. You may also notice that your sense of professionalism increases. You take pride in meeting obligations, communicating clearly, and delivering quality work. This professionalism strengthens reputation and opportunity. As your self-leadership grows, you may also experience increased independence. You rely more on your own planning and discipline rather than waiting for external direction. This independence supports confidence. You may also find that your emotional expectations around progress become more realistic. You accept that growth includes discomfort, learning curves, and adjustments. This acceptance protects motivation. Another shift is how you manage competing demands. You prioritize tasks based on impact rather than urgency. This prioritization improves effectiveness. You may also notice that your sense of self-worth becomes less tied to outcomes. You value effort, learning, and integrity. This stable self-worth protects emotional balance. As responsibility becomes part of your identity, you may also experience increased calm when facing complex challenges. You trust your ability to think, plan, and adapt. This confidence supports leadership in your own life. You may also find that your emotional responses to success become more balanced. You enjoy progress without becoming reckless or overconfident. This balance protects sustainability. Another important development is how you handle delays. You use waiting periods to refine skills and improve systems rather than becoming discouraged. This productive waiting strengthens readiness. You may also notice that your sense of direction becomes clearer. You know what you are working toward and why. This clarity supports persistence. As your capacity grows, you may also experience increased commitment to ethical and responsible choices. You value integrity alongside achievement. This integrity protects long-term stability. You may also find that your confidence in managing finances, projects, or responsibilities continues to strengthen. You trust your ability to adjust strategies when needed. This flexibility supports growth. Another shift is how you experience ambition. Ambition becomes focused and structured rather than scattered. You pursue fewer goals with greater commitment. This focus increases effectiveness. You may also notice that your emotional investment becomes more intentional. You choose where to care deeply instead of reacting intensely to everything. This selectivity protects energy. As this second part settles, understand this. Approval may have opened the door, but it is your discipline, planning, and emotional steadiness that will determine how far you go through it. What is changing now is not only your circumstances, but your relationship with responsibility, effort, and long-term thinking. You are becoming someone who can manage growth without losing balance, who can build stability instead of chasing momentary relief, and who can protect what is gained through wise decisions. This is not just movement forward. It is movement forward with structure, clarity, and the capacity to sustain what you are building. As this phase of building continues, you may begin to notice that your sense of internal stability becomes stronger than your reaction to external conditions. Good days no longer make you reckless, and difficult days no longer make you hopeless. This emotional balance allows you to keep showing up consistently, which is one of the most important factors in long-term success. You may also notice that your confidence becomes more rooted in experience rather than expectation. You trust yourself because you have seen how you handle challenges, not because everything feels easy. This grounded confidence supports steady decision-making even when outcomes are uncertain. Another important shift is how you relate to momentum. You stop relying on sudden bursts of motivation and instead build progress through routines and systems. This shift protects you from burnout and keeps growth sustainable. You may also find that your patience continues to increase. You are willing to invest in long-term improvement rather than chasing quick wins. This patience allows skills, finances, and stability to compound over time. As your awareness grows, you may notice that your attention to detail improves. You care more about quality, organization, and follow-through. These details may seem small, but they create reliability. and reliability builds trust with others and with yourself. You may also experience greater clarity around what you are willing to tolerate and what you are no longer willing to accept. This clarity strengthens boundaries and protects your energy from being drained by situations that no longer align with your growth. Another shift is how you respond to stress. Instead of shutting down or reacting emotionally, you move into problem-solving mode. You identify what can be adjusted and take practical steps forward. This response keeps challenges from turning into long-term obstacles. You may also notice that your financial and practical thinking becomes more structured. You consider budgeting, planning, and saving as tools for freedom rather than restrictions. This mindset supports long-term stability and reduces anxiety around money. As your sense of responsibility strengthens, you may also experience more pride in being dependable. You follow through on commitments, meet deadlines, and handle obligations with care. This dependability builds confidence and opens new opportunities. You may also find that your relationship with learning becomes more active. You seek information that improves performance rather than waiting for mistakes to force change. This proactive learning keeps you ahead of problems instead of reacting to them. Another important development is how you manage emotional expectations. You no longer assume that progress should feel exciting all the time. You accept that some days will feel routine, and you remain committed anyway. This consistency supports long-term results. You may also notice that your tolerance for distraction decreases. You protect your focus because you recognize how valuable it is. This protection improves productivity and reduces frustration. As your identity continues to shift toward stability and growth, you may also become more comfortable making decisions that require patience rather than immediate reward. You delay gratification in order to protect future outcomes. This discipline strengthens long-term success. You may also experience increased clarity about what kind of lifestyle you want to sustain, not just what kind of success you want to achieve. This awareness influences how you manage time, finances, and energy. Another shift is how you respond to feedback from your own results. When something is not working, you adjust strategies instead of blaming circumstances. This accountability accelerates improvement. You may also notice that your emotional reactions to uncertainty become calmer. You trust your ability to adapt as situations evolve. This trust reduces anxiety and supports flexibility. As your systems improve, you may also find that your days feel more organized. You reduce unnecessary decisions by creating routines. This organization saves mental energy for more important choices. You may also experience increased willingness to take responsibility for long-term planning. You think about future expenses, career development, and skill growth. This planning protects stability. Another important development is how you handle comparisons. You are less affected by others' timelines and achievements. You remain focused on your own progress. This independence protects confidence. You may also notice that your emotional resilience continues to grow. You recover more quickly from setbacks and stay engaged with your goals. This resilience supports persistence. As your self-leadership strengthens, you may also become more comfortable setting realistic expectations for yourself. You aim for steady improvement rather than perfection. This realism protects motivation. You may also find that your communication becomes more solution-focused. You discuss challenges with the goal of improvement rather than blame. This approach strengthens relationships and teamwork. Another shift is how you experience ambition. Ambition becomes structured and patient rather than frantic. You pursue growth through planning and preparation instead of rushing. This approach protects well-being. You may also notice that your emotional investment becomes more intentional. You choose where to direct passion and effort instead of reacting intensely to every situation. This selectivity protects energy. As your focus continues to sharpen, you may also experience increased satisfaction from mastering skills and building stability rather than from chasing constant novelty. This satisfaction supports long-term engagement. You may also find that your tolerance for instability decreases. You prefer environments and habits that support consistency. This preference strengthens foundations. Another important development is how you interpret challenges. You view them as part of the process rather than as signs that you should stop. This mindset keeps you moving forward. You may also notice that your confidence in your ability to manage growth continues to increase. You trust your planning, discipline, and adaptability. This confidence reduces fear of success. As your capacity grows, you may also experience greater comfort with responsibility. You accept leadership in your own life and take ownership of outcomes. This ownership strengthens direction. You may also find that your sense of gratitude becomes more connected to effort and learning. You appreciate the skills you are building, not just the results you hope to see. This gratitude stabilizes motivation. Another shift is how you handle emotional highs and lows. You remain steady instead of swinging between extremes. This balance protects decision-making. You may also notice that your focus on building sustainable progress becomes stronger than your desire for dramatic breakthroughs. This long-term focus protects stability. As this third part settles, understand this. What is growing within you now is not only opportunity, but capacity. Capacity to manage responsibility, to stay consistent when motivation fades, to think strategically instead of emotionally, and to protect what you are building through wise choices. This capacity is what allows approval to become advancement, and advancement to become lasting stability. You are not simply moving forward, you are learning how to stay moving forward. And that is what transforms opportunity into a future you can actually maintain and grow. As this stage of growth continues, you may begin to notice that your relationship with control becomes healthier. You no longer try to manage every detail out of fear. Instead, you focus on managing your effort, your habits, and your decisions. This shift reduces stress because you stop carrying responsibility for outcomes that are not fully within your influence, while still staying fully engaged in what you can shape. You may also notice that your confidence in handling uncertainty continues to increase. You no longer need everything to be guaranteed before you move forward. You trust that you can respond intelligently as situations develop. This flexibility allows you to progress even when the path is not perfectly clear. Another important shift is how you manage emotional energy. You become more aware of when you are overextending yourself emotionally and when you need recovery. Instead of pushing through exhaustion, you make adjustments earlier. This self-regulation protects both mental clarity and physical health. This balance allows you to stay productive without sacrificing your well-being.